Good morning, everyone. It is my great honor to introduce today's keynote speaker. Our guest is a remarkable young adult who has turned their personal journey into a powerful voice for advocacy. As a self-advocate for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, they have not only navigated their own challenges with grace and resilience, but have become a beacon of inspiration for others in our community. Through their advocacy work, they have been a force for change, promoting inclusion, accessibility, and understanding. They have empowered others to embrace their unique strengths and continue to break down barriers, showing that everyone, regardless of ability, deserves to live with integrity, dignity, and opportunity. Please join me in welcoming Cortez Range, a passionate self-advocate leader and example of the power of determination and hope. So hello and welcome to the 4th Annual New Jersey Youth Transitions Conference. My name is April DePietro and I work for the Camden County Care Management Organization. We are thrilled to have you all here with us today. We're excited to introduce our wonderful presenter, Cortez Range. He will be discussing what's so special about special. So thank you, Cortez and Brian, for sharing your insights and expertise. Let's give a warm welcome to our self-advocate keynote speaker, Cortez Range, and Mr. Brian. The floor is yours.
Thank you. You're so good. Thank you.
How about we introduce ourselves now?
Yeah. Welcome everyone. That was wonderful. But the reason why I started advocating for myself and finding a voice is because I had to. And learning how to do that and caring about that got me to this stage today. And also, I have Brian McChrystal, a wonderful tag team partner here. Go ahead.
I'm Brian. I'm Cortez's direct support professional. I did not know anything about the individuals with developmental disability world prior to applying for this job. We've been together for almost 4 years now, and I love his passion about helping other people with disabilities and to try and make their lives easier. Uh, so without further ado, can you tell the audience more about your background?
Pretty much, I was raised in Newark, New Jersey, and not actually, no, Phillipsburg, New Jersey. And through my life experience of learning about responsibility, falling down, getting back up, brushing my shoulders off, and doing that, I got the strength to speak about matters that pertain to me and I'm passionate about. So, pretty much.
I know a little bit more about you than most of the people on the call. So when when you talk about your background, a little bit in Newark, a little bit in Phillipsburg, uh, I I imagine that that was a pretty difficult upbringing.
It was. I mean, was especially learning how to advocate, learning how to get what I need, and also dealing with no, and dealing with the fact that I can't control that. And sometimes it was harsh, but I learned from smart people that were around me, gave me strength to not look at no as an obstacle to stop, but gave me fuel to understand why a no was given to me.
Mm.
So,
And, and so what I'm gathering is eventually you were getting that no regularly, but to be able to get opportunities like this one, sometimes that no became a yes.
yes, I mean, pretty much, I had to learn how to accept the fact that I'm not going to get my way all the time. But to build myself up, I had to learn how to deal with my disappointment, my anger, and I had to accept and move on instead of staying in the same emotional spot. So,
Hmm. Can you provide an example of a time where you went from having that struggle and you felt like you couldn't do something, and then just talk a bit about what changed for you to feel like you could get through it now.
My bipolar, me moving a lot, in my teens, and especially in my teens and my 20 years, moving and feeling like couldn't have a career. Now I do. Um, I mean, working with cars, I'm my grandfather. I wanted it so bad, but in my 20s, I didn't think my reading get better. I focus on that. I try to focus on sobriety. Um, it was a lot of stuff that I went through that I thought when I was a couple of years younger now that I didn't think I'd get through, but I got through it. You know what I mean? So
That's pretty incredible.
yeah, it is. But
I
uh,
mean, just the moving around thing can ruffle a lot of people's feathers, and you were able to come out the other side.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised too. I'm surprised every day, and I appreciate every day that I got, another breath in my body. Almost been dead 4 times. So for me, uh, showing my appreciation and showing my respect towards other people means a lot to me.
I know I'm putting words in your mouth here, and she probably would come up, um, but I know where you got these lessons from, uh, your grandmother,
Yeah,
and
she was the first woman to ever challenge me as a person. I mean, it's not easy raising a kid when you're 80, and at the time I was 15, 16, rowdy, and thought I knew everything in the world, and thought that if I ran with iron fists and I could get respect, but the only thing I got was fear.
mm, just there's so many things that didn't really work for you. I mean, this is the transition conference, so it sounds like when you were at that younger adult stage, you were having a hard time with managing your emotions, knowing what career you wanted.
Mhm.
Grandma provided some guidance, but it took some time for you to figure out what your transition was going to be.
Yeah, I think that when I hear about transition, I hear about responsibility, and I think that it's okay to fumble, it's okay to fall, and not know what your transition is going to be, because everyone's transition, whether it's about their job, about their relationship, about their friends, all that's personal, and you have to be okay to fall and figure out what you want, because a lot of times we ain't I don't think no one in their life has a roadmap of what expectation to expect when you want to transition to something. And that's that's my opinion on the matter. I think that transition comes with expectation and responsibility. And that pressure sometimes can be overbearing.
Mm,
So I think that if you have a proper support network, it makes it easier, but it doesn't make it so crushing. But sometimes you're not going to have the network there. But if you have someone that taught you those hard lessons to get back up, and it's not the end of the world, it makes it a little bit more better.
mm,
But I didn't always have that. I had to learn how to fumble to get here to be able to speak about it.
mm. Can you talk a little bit more about what your experience with transition was like, especially how it pertains to developmental disability? I know most students, they end up staying in school until they're 21. Uh, what were things like for you? People might not know your age on the call. Uh,
I'm 37 years old. Black don't crack. Okay? Black don't crack. I'm just trying to make everyone laugh. But my transition in school, personally, was terrible. I felt a lot of pressure as a kid, and me being disabled or getting stuck in one class at for most of my high school year, and I felt a lot of pressure, and I felt nervous. I was social awkward. Um, Pretty much, I learned how to avoid people. Uh, and for me, the only persons that I hanged around with was people that was stuck just like me. And that wasn't always disabled people. Uh, and we used to have a word when I was in school, kind of, and people used it sometimes, but normies, typical people, hang around a lot. But a lot of times, when it came to accepting my own disability and that I was part of that flag or part of that group of people, I really had a hard time accepting that because for me, I had not a tolerable attitude towards disability and being disabled. I wanted to be normal so much that if someone called me disabled, I get upset about it.
Mm.
And I say, I'm not disabled. And so I hated the stigma so much that I didn't want to be around anybody perceived not normal. And I had to learn normal means just a word because no one's normal. Everybody has their quirks or their different habits and ways they do their life. So I had to get that notion out of my head when I was younger. And it still takes some time. I still have trouble with it sometimes. And even though I'm much older now, it still hurts. I mean, sometimes. But
And it sounds like there's a struggle there. And just to point out the obvious, the stigma that people with disabilities face, that you didn't really want to be associated with that as a high schooler. You wanted to be associated more with the normies.
pretty much, I mean, I was just like I think every high school boy, I wanted to be popular. I wanted all the girls around me. I wanted the highlight fame of high school. And what you think about high school is the prom. You don't think about the responsibilities. You don't think about the homework. Everyone thinks about the parties they go to or their friends they talk to. Some I would say stupid stuff, but it's important for a kid and growing up and when that is shooken and that your social norm is now you're special and you're stuck with this label and now you don't know what to deal with it.
Mm.
Now you don't know how to deal with it because when we talk about transition, to go back to the topic, when we talk about transition, we talk about responsibility. So how do you deal with a responsibility that you was never taught about? I was never taught to accept disability. I was taught as a man, if I wanted that title, then I had to expect to be that provider, be that hero, be that champion. And how can I do it when no one respects me as a man?
Mm. It's a serious catch-22.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that it haven't got better, but still in some communities, when it comes to other communities in in this country, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to be a man and to be disabled because sometimes people don't want to say it, but in most men's life, we are expected with the responsibilities. If we talk about something or we want to do something, then we got to deal with the responsibility that people gives us
Mm.
or expect from us.
And, and it's all different degrees.
Yeah.
Some people are going to have upbringings where people are around them and they're super supportive of having a disability and all the things that go into the supports you need for it. And other people like you didn't really have that.
No, I mean my family loved me, but they hold me up to a mentality of okay, you're disabled, but we're not going to treat you like everybody else. We're sorry, we're not going to treat you as though you're special. We're not going to treat you with a label. We want to expect you to get those A's. We want to expect you to be respectful towards other people. And because I didn't grow up with a mom and a dad. It was chaotic for me to be in a community, especially in society, growing up feeling like I don't have no rights no more. And really I did, but how do you teach responsibility when you was never really taught? My grandma, like you said, my grandma always taught me responsibility, but I wasn't able to grasp those lessons.
Hmm.
You know,
When you were younger, it was harder.
it was really harder because I couldn't really stay focused on the topic. You know, I think that sometimes I'm talking about my opinion. I I want people to talk about their opinions today. This is a chance to ask the questions to get the answers. And a lot of times, because I growed up with an age of don't ask no questions. If you're disabled, don't ask no questions. Don't ask about your budget. Don't ask about the help that you need. Don't ask how you can do this. And because of you being so brilliant and thinking off the box sometimes, uh, stop it. um, it allows me to be creative of how I tackle issues. And I have to praise it wasn't just Brian, it was many people. It was Patty. Hi, Patty. Many people that gave me support and gave me guidance. Without that, I don't think as a African living in America right now, I don't know if I would be alive
Mm.
because of the pressure that I was under. And I think that we have to have grace on each other, but also talk about the real and ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Be curious about stuff. Act like a little kid in candy store to get something out of it that's beneficial for you. Because for me, this is beneficial for me to feel like I can talk about these issues or, just express my opinion in the matter.
So just to specify, if anyone does have a question, uh, Cortez would love to field it. And I think April and Amy are checking out the chat. So I have a few more questions. I've been having my interview cap on. And I do have a few more questions for Cortez, but this is something that when we were planning this talk, that he really wanted it to be engaging, and he felt like looking at, I know I'm putting words in your mouth here, sorry,
Go
but
ahead.
he felt like in your experience with transition that you didn't really have a platform like this as a disabled person to be able to see what are things that other people that were ahead of you went through. You kind of had to fall down multiple times before
Yeah.
you got it figured out.
And get frustrated and say the wrong things, break relationships.
So Patricia has a question here,
What's that?
and also Lenora has a question.
Go ahead.
Let's start with Lenora's question.
Okay.
So she asked what your disability is, if you feel comfortable.
My disability was a learning disability when I was growing up. Um, so for me, learning that I don't learn quickly and the expectation that when I was in school, boys are supposed to be a little bit more hyper, but you should be able to do math and do times tables and remember all this. Then, so, what's the next question?
So Patricia says, Cortez, please talk about your perspective on kids not being able to fail.
I think that when it comes to that question, I understand the terrified mom. I understand. I understand that need to protect your child. My grandmother had it, even though sometimes she didn't really show it, because a lot of times she'd just let me fall and be like, "You're all right. Get back up. Let's try again." But I think that's a good lesson of, Your kid is not fragile to glass. He's going to fail. I think that sometimes good support is about balancing the expectation of when he's gonna fall or when she's gonna fall, because it can be he or she. And being that parent, that nurturing parent to say, your bruises doesn't define you. Your
Mm.
losses don't. It's when you don't want to get back up. And that's why I was taught. What's the next question?
Just to paraphrase, I'm hearing that strength that if you do make a mistake or you feel like you're not going down the right path, being able to, as an educator or a parent, being able to give some affirmation to someone that's going through a hard time, so they know it's not the end of the world.
Well, I call advice. This giving advice really helps people a lot of times. A lot of times because we are just people and we just feel and we have emotions. A lot of times when you're devastated, it's hard to move. It's hard to think. It's hard to breathe. And when you have a person just reminding you that you are still here, you still have your toes, you still have the ability to achieve, it means a lot than um, pointing out the obvious.
Mm. I mean, that's pretty. It's great that you're able to notice this, and I see a question that kind of pertains to what we're talking about here.
What's that?
What do you think would have been more helpful from the school during your transition from high school?
I think because I was born in 1987, so a lot of things culturally was going on, uh, and because when I was in school, it wasn't this fascination with being disabled. I think that it's good, but it also calls people to be social. I had to learn the hard way to be social. I had to learn that, and when I say this, I'm not trying to downgrade anyone, but I had to learn that no one cares. You can care, but it's not that people can't care, but don't assume people should care. And normalizing a little bit of toughness with your attitude, and that things are not just going to be handed to you on a silver plate. You have to fight for it. If you want something, you have to stand up and say that you want it. And you have to expect that it's going to be challenges, and you're going to cry, and it's going to be frustrated, but it's going to be worth it at the end. And that was normalized to me. I think that that spirit has been lost when it comes to the school.
Mm. That with people with disabilities kind of being more on notice, that you kind of were ignored. It almost seemed like that you weren't able to feel like you could have a disability in the school system, and now that it's more accepted, you're saying that they're kind of going along with what the talk is, our topic about
Mm.
being special, that they're not being uh, there's no challenge going on. I
Yeah,
think that challenge is important.
yes, I think challenge is important for everyone. Without a challenge, you can't build character. You can't build a personality. People are built by challenges, especially me. I think that life is a bunch of challenges. If you don't know how to play the game of chess, then you're not going to win the game. And part of the game of life is that un, un, more likely when you get something, you get it by the sweat and your breath that you put into it.
Mhm.
What you put in something, how much effort you get back. So if you don't have no will to give effort, then you won't receive anything.
Mm.
And that lesson's lost. I think, in my opinion, special ed doesn't teach anything about life lessons. It teaches that you're special and you should receive this. You should get this help. No, No one owes you nothing. You have to fight for it. If you want something, go get it. Simple. It might be hard, but it's going to be worth it.
That's a great message for any kid to hear, I think.
Uh,
Because there's entitlement with people without disabilities too.
yeah, I mean, everyone has their cheap label. I mean, I do. I'm African. I'm disabled, but that doesn't define me. My culture doesn't define me. My words, my actions, and my what's that big word? See, this is another thing.
You need a thesaurus.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. I just love today. I appreciate everyone that's on the chat.
Just keep an eye on the time.
Okay. It really it's really important, I mean, to me. What's another question? Sir? Question that you probably have. I don't think anyone does.
No, we got more.
Okay, go ahead.
You are the keynote speaker, sir.
Go ahead.
What advice would you give to youth anxious about transition?
That's to breathe, and it's not the end of the world. You're going to fall down. You're not going to have all the answers, and don't rush all the answers. Let life breath into your chest. Oh, did your mom's?
That Sunshine Sullivan, maybe April or Amy can help us with.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, is Sunshine able to unmute herself?
Yes, anybody can today.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
Sunshine, the floor is yours. What's your question? Oh, it was a mistake. That's okay. No worries.
Oh, my bad.
She was just saying
I
hi.
think you're amazing, though. I'll say that. I was just telling April you should speak at the autism conference.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I think you were in the middle of answering
Was good.
advice that you'd give to youth anxious about transition. If
Oh,
they're
yeah.
anxious about transition, what would you say to them?
Keep on going. Don't expect you to have all the answers. I think that sometimes you put too much pressure on yourself. Allow yourself to fall and fail. Enjoy your failure.
I mean, as you're 37 now, looking back, it's easier to say that now.
Yeah,
But
it is.
I know in your early 20s, that was a tough patch for you,
Yes.
and students that are transitioning now might be even younger than that. So it's it might be difficult for them to fully embody that, but
It's a life lesson that's ongoing.
Mm.
You're not gonna enjoy it when you fail. I didn't. And Brian is right. I hated it. I hated to fail. I hated that I was told no. I hated the fact that I got in trouble for many times smoking cigarettes at school or disappointing my grandmother or getting into fights or stuff like that. But for me, it's a life experience. You're going to go through tough patches in life, and no one is accepted from that.
Serving a dose of reality as usual.
I'm Count Dracula. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had a magic wand, right? Like, have you ever watched Harry Potter?
Yes.
Okay. You have a magic wand and you can change one thing from your school experience as someone with a disability. What would you change and why?
That's a good question. Probably the culture of the school environment, because either you was Pappy, the cheerleader, or you was grunge and you was a goth guy, or because of when I went to school, I went with a mixed batch.
You're not going to mention the jocks? Come on.
Jack's got always be talking about themselves. I went with a mixed bag of culture. So for me, I would change not the mixed batch, but the camaraderie and the friendship that was on in that school, because I went to Best Buddies, but that was just a smoke show.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really being Best Buddies.
Mm-hmm. As far as like the teachers or the IEP process, the child study team, is there anything along those lines that you wish was different?
I would say they did the great job of making me aware,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, as a kid, being aware you're different now. Not everybody's going to teach you different. Now
Mm-hmm.
your expectations is gone. They don't expect you to get your driver's license. They don't expect you to read. They expect you to be simple, sit down, be quiet, don't ask no questions. And for me, I failed to get it. And everybody was asking me when I was growing up, so why are you so antsy? Why are you not behaving like a good little kid?
Mm-hmm.
And I was a teenager, antsy about my life, my career, where I was going, if I was going to get married, I want to have kids, I want to have a functional life. I mean, to tell a kid now you're disabled, I don't think anybody would feel comfortable with that shock.
Mm. Okay, I see what you're saying. So you felt labeled? Is that what you're sharing? Like you felt like you were put into a box and
I
that's
think
something that you would
the
change?
expectations don't change.
Okay.
My culture and my family taught me a long time, to be a man, this is the standard.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't meet that standard no more. Now I'm a man that's gonna be expected not to do these life lessons anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expected to want a career or have a career
I see.
or fix cars or read a certain grade or go to college. That wasn't in the cards for me. It was working at Walmart. That's the best that you can get.
Okay. So you felt like the bar was placed lower for you because of the disability that was like shocking to kind of hear and understand through that process. But now
Yeah,
how do you feel as a grown man who's gone through this process and you're striving to do different things? Do you still view yourself in that way, or do you feel like you're capable of making your life and accomplishing what you want?
I feel like I'm able. I still face the stigma.
Mm-hmm.
I think the stigma is not going to really go away, but how I attach myself to it or how I identify with it did change because I don't identify anymore. I build strength off of that, but it
I
is
love that.
what it is.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Just to add to that, um, and maybe you do want to talk a little bit more about your career and stuff at some point, but we were actually on a job interview yesterday. This guy was, and I was with him, supporting him, and the would-be manager was his, I don't know if it was his first question, but he was asking me, like, what are you doing here? Because Cortez already had everything covered.
Pretty much.
That's
And
awesome. Congratulations, dude.
thank you. Thank
Good
you.
for you. Good for you.
Uh,
So what did
I'm
you say, Cortez? What did you say to the manager when he asked why Brian was there?
just briefly just said that I want to say he's my friend, but I used your acronym for your position, and that's pretty much it. I didn't make a big deal out of it. I didn't make a big stink. I knew that, from experience,
Mm-hmm.
and people see a help aid or someone that's assisting another person with a disability right away, their warnings go up. So he do the job? Can he do the task? Can he be pushed? Can he live up to this expectation?
Mm-hmm.
And I just let that wash through me. I was like, yeah, I'm just here for the job, this and that. Been on task, and that's pretty much about it.
That's awesome. But you took care of all of it yourself. That's great.
Yes.
Congratulations. That's good.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
It's great when my job's easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trina said, "You are an inspiration for many. Aside from advocacy, what are your other interests and passions?"
Um, Partially is mentoring to youth, and giving back that what my grandma gave to me, a blessing. Um, I like to help people. I enjoy karate. I enjoy art. So I'm a big nerd when it comes to comics and not comics, but Japanese art, anime, and stuff like that.
Manga.
Yeah, I'm a manga kind of guy.
See what else we got. Oh, Mei Ling said, "Hello, Cortez. Thank you for sharing your experience. How can educators respectfully support and advocate for their students and clients in their endeavors toward independence when family members are resistant to allowing them to take on tasks and daily life challenges that they are ready for?"
I think that the hard thing is that they're gonna have to go against the grain. I think that sometimes being comfortable, you get complacent. Without challenging, without someone pushing you, sometimes you gotta have to have the courage to break the rules. I'm not saying break the rules and get in trouble, get criminal court or nothing, but if you listen to your mom or listen to your dad or listen to your family every time they gave you a suggestion, you wouldn't be at where you are. And sometimes breaking cultural norms is sometimes more important than following everybody else in the room what they're doing.
Hmm.
You kind of and also I want to ask though is do you kind of get me because sometimes I have a long time speaking about issue and be around it.
Do you want to just say, if you guys understand, thumbs up?
Yeah, but do you get it?
We got a hand, which I think means a
Good.
thumbs up. I kind of got it. I was gonna say, because I saw Patty had another question,
Good.
and that almost what could happen is sometimes it could be the educator, sometimes it could be the parent that's a step ahead. That either way, whether it's the parent wanting their child to be more independent or vice versa, that you're probably going to have to rebel against one or the other.
Yeah. And you're gonna have to learn how to sometimes build a bridge out of breaking, you know what I mean? I heard you have to build a bridge out of broken parts sometimes in life. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I have a follow-up to that. If a person's parent or guardian, whoever's raising and taking care of them, is really scared to let the young adult do more things or try, let's say, riding the bus by themselves to the grocery store, right? Let's say at school in their IEP, they're working on buying things at a store and getting proper change. If the parent or guardian is really just nervous and scared, I don't know if the person can do it, I'm nervous, like I don't, is there anything that you think that the school could do to help allow that person to have those freedoms and experiences if at home they're like really sheltered and like protected?
I say reality check, but being realistic, it only takes a little bit of step
Mm-hmm.
and take a little bit of breadcrumbs. I think that if you baby a disabled person,
Mm-hmm.
make them um you make them less sensitized to the social order of a world that
Mm-hmm.
not everyone treats you as a label.
Understood. Understood. For you earlier, you had said that, you felt like you were placed into a box and like the bar was set lower for you, but you never viewed it that way. Like you wanted to, have the same aspirations and dreams as your peers. Is there a way that you think schools or parents could better understand what it's like for you, the person with the disability, to not have the support to try. And yeah, you might fail, right? Like you said earlier, you might fall down, but you get back up, like to have that opportunity and space to try the same things as everyone else.
I mean, dignity or risk, I don't know. I'm not really sure because honestly, you can love your child every day, but that's not going to make them a responsible, a
Mhm.
reliable person in society.
Understood.
And without those tools of learning how to pay your own bills, learning how to get on a bus, think for your own self, go through challenges, you're not gonna have a functioning person in society. You're gonna have a toddler, you're gonna have a baby. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying that you are one just because you're a little bit more sensitive, you don't know social things, but everybody, like I said, is quirky in their own way.
Mhm.
But at the same time, everyone have went through these life lessons of knowing how to read a room, how to be social, how to be respectful. And without those tools, you're not going to have success in your own life.
It makes it that much harder. Understood. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
And that kind of got back to April's earlier question about the lack of social skills that individuals with disabilities are taught in the
Yeah.
school system, that if they did know how to ask for some of those things, it would make them a lot more prepared in the real world.
Yes. I do agree with you. I think the social education is lacking when it comes to disabled people. Uh, I feel like, I hate to say feel, but my opinion is that I think that we need to do a little bit more social education than just regular education
Mhm.
sometimes.
Mhm.
The social aspect is just important to learn how to read and write. Because if you're not getting at home, you're not gonna be as prepared when things don't go your way.
Right. Right.
I'm gonna
Understood.
push you as I always do. What does that social education look like, you think? I know you don't have to have it all figured out, but
Yeah,
what do you think would have been ideal to have when you were in school?
I'm not really sure. I mean, the things I learned socially is that sometimes people don't want to tell you no. People are going to look at you as less than, and how you react to it matters more than someone being ignorant or being unfair to you. You can always raise out and throw a tantrum and stuff like that, but sometimes that's not going to fix the problem. So I guess it'd be something like that. I'm not really sure.
I know it's a difficult question.
I'm
Testing it.
not- but
I don't know the answer either. It wasn't a leading question.
but go ahead. I see we got three.
Yeah, I did want to tell you that the question that you answered before
Mm.
about how educators can support and advocate for their students, uh, I think you weren't sure whether your answer made sense. They said in all caps, I love that. So it did make sense. What didn't work about Best Buddies program?
Because it was a lot of fluff, but not a lot of commitment. Um, And I'm not saying those kids and I did not, enjoy our company, but I think the intent of normalizing people that's socially awkward, especially when they have a disability, with normal typical, that's the word,
Mhm.
normal typical,
Whoa, look at you.
so,
Read the literature.
typical people is very good, but how they do it is more of a creative environment instead of a last environment. And it's a program. It's not someone coming up to you and saying, "Oh, we like Legos. Uh, I want to be your friend." Or it's all control. It's all generated in this controlled environment.
Mm.
When you step out of it and you don't have that environment, who's your real friend? So that's what I think about it.
It sounds like they weren't real friends at the time when you're in those perfect situations where everything's scripted out. It turns out okay, but once you graduated high school, you don't really stay in touch with your best buddy anymore.
Yeah, and that's the case with many people, but I think it's a egregious expectation to put on you as a kid.
Mm. So I know we probably only have about 5 minutes left.
Mhm.
I want to give you some praise. Jocelyn said, teaching resiliency, self-advocacy, communication skills. You definitely know what you're talking about, Cortez. And someone else said, I saw another compliment. Bring in the love for Cortez. That's kind of what I'm looking for here. If anyone wants to drop a comment in the chat. Your talk is very enlightening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope. You are awesome, Cortez. I think that one was for me. So as we're wrapping up, I just want you to conclude, like, again, that the talk was about what's so special about being special. What would your to-go message be for the audience?
Start expecting people to treat you as special. Uh, Treat yourself with kind, dignity words, and have respect for other people, but don't expect anything from other people. Expect yourself to show up as a person, to have dignity, and expect other people for having dignity of risk. And if we treat disabled people as they have dignity of risk, then we are better to able to equip them for the real life experience of living life with a disability. And that's my hope. Dignity of risk.
What goes back to that?
Yeah, I mean, people have the right to fail, and it might be hard, but love is loving someone through the difficult times in their life and allow them to grow from their mistakes.
I I think you probably want me to have my concluding thoughts too.
Go ahead.
So I'm coming on from a different angle. I wasn't in the education system at all. I just know about adults with disabilities, and it's cool to see and makes sense that parents and educators that are thinking about transition, how anxious of a process that could be. And it's cool to see. I didn't know this guy when he was struggling to figure out a lot of the answers that the people in the audience are looking for. Um, but it's a testament to all the hard work you were able to do to pick yourself up so many times when you didn't have that good support system, because like there's this whole call for people that did have their shit together, but you were able to do it in your own way, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not saying just throw a disabled person out there and just watch them fall, but sometimes letting someone fall is the lesson they need to learn to get back up. Because if you keep stop them to fall, then they don't know how to say no, or how to not pick up that drink, or how to not let teasing get to them, or have a voice if they're stuttering, or they have a speech impairment, or they're twitching. And the more times you make a person antsy, the more time a person won't do something. But you give encouragement through their angst, that fear, that anger won't be there no more. Because anger and frustration can only live in someone's heart when it's darkness. They can't, that emotion can't live there if it's sunlight and hope at the end of the day.
What? What a note to leave on.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Man, I could talk to you for hours. This was seriously, seriously. I mean, the chat box is just blowing up. All right. Thank you, Cortez Range. Thank you, Brian. We truly appreciated your time and your expertise. And thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us and being a part of this session. We hope that you learned something valuable and that you feel inspired on your own hero's journey.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate